Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here, and this is not a manga review. This is Bride of the Water God by Mi-kyung Yun, and I believe this is called manhwa because it's from Korea. Apart from like the little like previously on the back, Mi-kyung Yun received the Best New Artist Award in 2004 from the esteemed Dokja Manhwa Daisang organization. Bride of the Water God, with its enchanting romantic storyline and breathtaking artwork, was Korea's top-selling 2006 Sunyoung manhwa, similar to the shoujo manga genre. I really like this. I've been interested in manhwa for a while and where I can find it, and I'm almost weirded out that this isn't more of a thing like manga has become. There's a lot of overlap between this and manga. You can see the visual inspiration, but it does have its own distinct flavor, maybe like a Korean flavor. Bride of the Water God, I think, is directly based on some Korean mythological gods and characters. And you can read it left to right because the Korean language is read left to right. Like, come on, English market. Here's a way to get like a lot of people over their one big hurdle about manga is they don't like transitioning to reading right to left. It's ready made for you to bring it to an English market. So high recommendation for this. I agree with the positive press on the back of the book. This is a very beautiful book. Unusual style. I think Mi-kyung Young has done manhwa before, but this is her first time telling her own story. She alternates between kind of like a really pretty, ornate, flowery style and then a fun, silly, cartoony style for comedic bits. And I don't know. I think what I said about it before, that it feels like manga but has its own flair, is true of her style. It feels like a lot of manga I've read, but it does have its own little twisteroo or kind of way of looking at things, and a really good balance of ornate detail and simple character moments. Great use of economy of detail to establish all of these beautiful, gorgeous scenes, but then like not overdo it in every single little panel. So our story follows Soa. Soa is a little girl in a poor village, and Soa is going to be sacrificed by her village to Habayek, the water god. And after some lovely color pages, establishing her in the gorgeous bridal costume, she kind of like internally thinks about the sacrifice she's going to make. She wonders how sincere the village is. Like, they're all saying thank you, and she wonders if they really think she's pathetic behind the scenes. And she doesn't actually have that much love for these people. She's kind of angry at them for sacrificing her, but she's decided she's going to for a greater good. Like, better that I should die and that these people live, even though I kind of resent them for doing this to me. And even if I'm not 100% sure this sacrifice to the water god will even work. Now, why did I mark this? Okay, so she's ripped into the world of Habayek and then sort of saved from this whirlpool. And then there's this question is Habayek the monster she's always heard about? And in the realm of the gods, it's like wondrous, and there's floating rocks and amazing ancient architecture. And she encounters a young child who's kind of like playing with a ball, seems a little mischievous. I even like this bit where he just walks away from her and completely ignores her, and then suddenly it's like her head turns into an orange and she feels embarrassed, because it's a real contrast from the sort of sweet, almost syrupy style of the rest of it. But lots of lush wavy lines and ornation. So good little bit of comedic writing. She meets this fascinating, handsome man who she assumes must be Habayek, and she's interested in him. So it's sort of like, oh, well, maybe getting sacrificed to the water god isn't so bad if, it's this handsome dude. And then this old guy reveals that this isn't Habayek. This is Huye Daijengun Nim. And Nim is a Korean honorific, similar to Japanese honorific. So a lot of people have Nim after the name. So Huye Daijengun is just a servant. And oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to do spoiler warning. Spoiler-free review, just go get this book. It's really good. But sorry for the belated spoiler warning. Spoiler warning time, spoilers from here out. The little kid is Habayek, the water god. Oh no, and I even like the comedic little bit here of like the heavy black bars to emphasize this, and the little arrow just pointing out how short he is. She kind of can't believe that this is who she's expected to marry, right? So it feels like she's now just caught in a sham marriage with a little kid that she thinks is kind of cute, but she looks down on him a little bit, literally, and finds him a bit immature. Then the sort of Beauty and the Beast fairy tale aspect starts kicking in. Habeak is a child by day, but by night he grows into a full-grown, very dashing, handsome man, and she doesn't know this yet. And he's very observant. So he asks her, if she resents what was done to her, and she says, "Oh, I don't care about those people back in the village." But then he hears her crying about missing her mother, and so he realizes that she's lying, and she actually does care about what happens back at the village. So it's this great little tete-a-tete between the two, like trying to figure out each other. Will she discover his secret identity? Will he fall in love with her? Will he figure out what makes her tick and get her to fall in love with him? It's a mashup of like the great old Beauty and the Beast fairy tale with really primal like Korean myth. There's even like a quote in part of the book from like the ancient poem or whatever inspired this. So this is a good illustration of my thesis that manga and manhwa is kind of like, this is your cultural education resource. Like, I don't know where I would go to read about ancient Korean myths that are translated into English in an understandable way. And so what artists like Mi-kyung do is they translate that into a format I can kind of understand. Like, maybe I wouldn't be able to click with the ancient poem translated into English, but I can really click with her art and the majesty she brings to all of it. So this is, I do a bunch of fairy tale stories on this channel. This is everything you love about a fairy tale, but by lengthening it into a manga. She hasn't like killed it by just adding a whole bunch of plot details to a fairy tale. Like, fairy tales often have like a few very specific, interesting details, and they don't really have much of a plot. You just sort of get the point, you see the interesting thing, and then the fairy tale is done. She's taking sort of the interesting, mysterious things from fairy tales to give it that feel. But there's always progression to the plot. So in every chapter, it's not just they're floating around. Like, something dramatic or important happens, which furthers the relationship. So the promise of the first volume is that what I hope is that it'll continue to just build this way. That every chapter will feel significant. Every plot point will move the relationship forward. They just won't be doing a bunch of silly billy things all the time around the palace, but things that are important will be occurring. So Huye comes and speaks with her, and she's not the first wife that Habaek has had. And so Huye even kind of jokes that, other wives have also been interested in him and have begged him to run off with them. And she's kind of resisted that because even though she's interested in Huye, I think she has enough kind of self-respect, or she's enough of a good traditional Korean girl that she doesn't want to break her marriage contract with Habaek, even though she still believes that Habaek is just a little boy. And I like that because it's a literal illustration of kind of a primal idea from fairy tales. Is the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale is all about the beauty encouraging the beast to become a good human being again, kind of discovering the good human being, buried within the beast. And so in this version, it's literally, is Habaek a decent person she should marry, or is he an immature little brat? And he literally transforms back and forth between a cute little brat and a sophisticated older man. And there's oh, and there are all these other kind of interesting gods who just sort of add a little like flavor to it, but they don't distract too much from the main Beauty and the Beast plot. So I've highlighted this because Habaek is kind of a capricious god. He still hasn't given them rain, even though he's taken the bride. And she sort of pleads with him. She implores to his good nature. And there's this really dope scene where he just scatters his water cup or his sake cup, and the act of like dropping some water out of his cup is what brings rain to the real world. So it's this really cool, mystical, ancient idea of like the realm of the gods, where like every little thing in nature is explained as an action of the gods. I just thought that was really dope. And it's also continuing the plot of, is Habaek a good guy, or is he kind of a nasty guy? What's his beef? She's interested in him. He's kind of mysterious. She hasn't met grown-up Habaek yet. She's still kind of getting her feet underneath her and figuring out the world. Okay, and then, like I said, the plot actually moves forward. So it was just fairy tale girl goes and meets Beauty and the Beast. That's maybe good for like a good short story. This starts introducing some questions like, well, what's the past of this place? What are you going to be okay? What's happened to Habaek's past wives? So some of this drama starts becoming a little bit of the behind the scenes things of, is she going to be able to survive in this world? Because there was this really dope monster called a Che that I'd never heard of. A monster that is similar to a tiger, but has an ox's tail, barks like a dog, eats humans, and it's almost like snake-like with a false dog head on its snout and then an eye back here that just opens up infinitely all along its body. It's so weird. And a little tiger-like, a little dog-like. I don't know. I just thought that was a completely dope monster. I'm a guy. I like scary monsters that almost eat people. I marked this because I think that Soa. So Soa is kind of this prim and proper girl. She's a little resentful about being sent here, and she also has this side where she's interested in men. She wants to find a good husband, and she likes romance. So even though she's kind of prim and proper, sometimes she'll get in these hilarious situations where Habayek will jump up and land on her by accident, and she's clearly flustered that a tall, handsome man has appeared out of nowhere and landed right on top of her. And this is conveyed by like a silly expression. She can't quite cope with this. So she does not know that this tall, dark, handsome man is Habayek yet. So again, the plot is moving forward rather than just like float around for 100 volumes with her never discovering his true identity. Now the tension is building that she's met Habayek as a grown-up, but still doesn't know that's his name yet. So he kind of lies to her in the moment and says, "My name is Mui." It wasn't a deliberate lie at first. It was just kind of by accident. And now that he's done it by accident, he's kind of like just seeing how long she'll be in the dark about it as a little bit of a joke. So he's immature, right? But there's more to him than just that immaturity. And it's, again, emphasis. A great little, solid black background with beautiful flowering cherry blossoms or whatever to underscore an important moment, and then a switch to a silly style for a comedic moment. I think emphasis is one of the most important things in comics because without that, it just feels like scene, 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 scene. Emphasis slows you down and makes you pause at what is important and consider what's important. And then the ornate detail helps grab your eye and hold you on the page for a while. It's great stuff. Later, she accidentally kind of trips in on him while he's in the bath. And, okay, this is really important. So his symbol is this water lily. And the water lily blossoms in daytime and closes at night. And he's kind of the opposite of that. So there's even like a primal thing in nature which illustrates the weird thing about his power. So I guess that's one of the kind of cool things is a lot of manga and manhwa will have some weird thing like he turns into a little kid. But the magical thing is successfully brought into the context of the rest of the story. Okay, I like this, right? I like that she's prim and proper most of the time, and when she sees a handsome man by accident half naked, suddenly she doesn't know how to cope, and she even lampshades it that normally the comedic bit is the guy sneaks up on the girl in the bath by accident, and she thinks he's a pervert, and she's in the complete opposite situation of that. Here's the poem. Around Guha we wander about, the wind rises to cross the wave. Within this wagon of water, how can I take shelter while riding the two dragons that follow another? From the poem of Habayek, Guga poem chose a style. Wow. I feel culturally enriched. I feel more connection with the cultural heritage of Korea. Thank you. There she is, kind of cute, kind of feeling flustered and doesn't know what to do. All right, this guy. The side characters add some interest to the world without distracting too much. So Ban Wang the wolf shows up, and I like that when he transforms into a human, there's still a wolf-like element to his helmet and really ornate details to his helmet. So it's avoiding the problem of every character looking the same and feeling the same. All the secondary characters, they don't steal the show, they don't distract too much, but all of them are designed in such a way that they're very memorable and identifiable, and they add some interest to this world, like what's everyone's relation to each other, who's the most powerful. And Habayek's mother shows up, and she is the goddess of torture and also of, I think, prosperity. So it's like you don't want to get on her bad side, you want to be on her good side. And like, what's her deal? Is she here to bless the marriage? Is she here to torment her son because she's a manipulative person? We don't know yet. And there's some foreshadowing that something bad's going to happen, but we don't know what bad thing is going to happen yet. I'm going to jump ahead to this. All right. So, and there's a dramatic revelation at the end, meaning that Soa has some freedom to decide. She actually has the freedom to decide whether she lives here or can go at any time. And that's going to add some drama. Will she want to stay with Habaek now that she still hasn't figured out that he's the same guy that she's interested in? But there's some tension here. She has agency as a character. It's a fun, simple, very straightforward, fairy tale-like romance. And I think the art helps sell it. And the narrative isn't annoying. It feels like a very primal fairy tale. So let's take a look at this. There's Habaek as a little kid. And the author writes, "Thank you so much for reading all the way up to this point. Actually, I'm really shy about telling stories to others. Blush. So when I was young, I used to write my stories down, folding the sheets of paper about 27 times. Then I hid them so that nobody could see them. Fold, fold. You actually cannot fold paper more than about 10 times. So, Bridge of the Water God is the first story I've ever told to others. Hey, sis, what do you think about a story like this? Thump, 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 hearts racing. It's about a male hero who grows big every night. A biological sister. A pervert." And then she draws herself suddenly, instead of a cartoony panda, as a very realistic panda to show how hurt she was by the revelation that her sister hated her story idea. So, a few years after that, I started my story here again. Well, it almost got cut at the planning stage. Please watch for more from me in the future, too. Epilogue. Yeah, and a sweet little drawing. Yes. Passion. The East comics industry is defined by passion. The West has been a very passionate comics industry. We built the comics industry, but I still think that passion, it hasn't left all of us. There are passionate artists left in the West, but the passionate people in the industry making popular comics that lots of people like to read, I think that most of that passion has transferred over to the Eastern market. And what I think that means is the Eastern market's going to be ascendant and the Western market's going to continue to struggle. We can tap into this kind of passion again and click with people in this similar way again. We just have to appreciate storytelling. We have to appreciate the value of storytelling and not turn storytelling into some cheap little gimmick to sell our political views. So, excellent book. I'm going to be reading all of these. All the power and passion of a fairy tale, compellingly told with loving art by a passionate person. Absolutely, you should go check this out. With that, I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed to me on Subscribestar. You are supporting this channel. You are helping making this channel possible. You can also support this channel by subscribing, liking, clicking the bell to receive notifications, and by sharing your thoughts in the comment section below. With that, I love you guys. I love y'all, and I'll catch you later.